Welcome to Conversations with Kay. I'm Kay Ryder. And every week I talk with Vermonters who are leaders in the fields of government, healthcare, education, the arts, and community life. And welcome to our radio listeners, 99.3 FM, WBTV LP. Our guests today are from the United Way of Northwest Vermont. And we have Donna Austin-Hawley, who's the campaign chair for this year's United Way campaign, and Jesse Bridges, who's the CEO of the United Way of Northwest Vermont. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. Jesse, what part of Vermont is served by the United Way of Northwest Vermont?
So our region focuses on Chittenden, Franklin, and Grand Isle counties, so really the entire northwest quadrant of the state.
Okay, now you merged these areas. You used to be just Chittenden and Grand Isle, and then Franklin joined you. Has this merger been successful in providing better ways to tackle community problems?
It has. It's enabled us to really think about the issues in a much more regional approach. You know, the issues that we're tackling, whether it be substance misuse, housing, childcare, they don't stop at, artificial borders. And so the solutions that we're having, they varied based on rural or urban, but we've been really successful in being able to bring the resources to really all corners of the region, and the programs and the services that we're providing, we know serve people in every single city and town throughout the region.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's really good. Donna, how much did the campaign raise last year? Do you know?
Last year we raised a little over $3.2 million.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's very good.
The effort of many people.
Right. How many volunteers do you have approximately?
Well, that's a great question. On the United Way campaign cabinet, we have 11 volunteers, and they have 4 to 5 working for them, so well over 50. But throughout the United Way system, I'd have to turn to Jesse and ask him.
Yeah. We have probably over hundreds of volunteers that work, whether it be for with United Way and raising funds and community engagement, or volunteers that are actually doing work in classrooms throughout the region. So there's probably, we estimated well over 40,000 hours of volunteer work went into last year.
Wow. And that number of volunteer hours is worth a lot, isn't it?
It's worth a lot.
So for every dollar that we raise, we leverage that to $1.70. Cents that goes back into the community. So you're correct, Kay. It really does go a lot.
Yeah. Now, how many volunteers do you have again? Repeat that stat. It's a big one.
There's hundreds of volunteers.
There you go.
Over 40,000 hours, and the value of that volunteer time, if put into dollars, is over $1 million in volunteer time. And so it leverages all of our nonprofit partners as well as our organization as a whole.
Great community effort. Donna, how long have you yourself been involved with the United Way? What have you done for the United Way?
Well, I've been involved with the United Way, Kay, ever since I've been involved with human resources, which is my day profession. And when my first supervisor came up to me and asked me to run the United Way campaign and be the key person, and I had no idea what that meant. So I've been involved well over 30 years with the United Way, doing campaigns within the organizations that I've worked from a workplace campaign perspective. I've also worked on something called the allocations team, which now has a new name now. However, this is the group of people that goes into the community and into the programs that are requesting money from the United Way. And a group of community volunteers evaluates the programs and what they're doing, including the financial pieces of that. To assure that the money that's invested by the people who are donating to the United Way are going to the programs, and the outcomes that are said that are going to be achieved are achieved. So that I've also done that and been on the campaign cabinet now for many years as well.
Right now, the allocations committee, I think it's very important for people to realize that every dollar that's spent, it's spent on programs now. They used to just fund
Correct.
agencies, but it's spent on programs now, programs that the community needs. And and every dollar that goes out there, it's been evaluated, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you know, there's staff, and then all of these community volunteers, people that are living and breathing and facing a lot of the issues that we're working on, are helping to make those decisions. United Way has and always will be a volunteer-led and, you know, community-funded organization.
Donna, why did you want to be the chair this year of the campaign? You said you're a supervisor. Where do you work?
So I work for Northfield Savings Bank, and I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer there. And one of our important values that we have there is being involved in the community. And so we support all of our employees, regardless of level of position, to do volunteer work within their communities. This is something I'm passionate about and have been for many years, and so I'm able to do this and volunteer for the United Way.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now you must be very, very busy. What are you going to be doing during the next few months, Donna, as you try to do your job and chair the campaign?
Well, actually, Kay, we started in July, and my first task was to gather a cabinet for the campaign, and we have 10 volunteers, and each of those volunteers are assigned a particular business unit, like real estate businesses or banks and health centers, that sort of thing. And each of them then go out and ask volunteers to work with them. And we have names of all of these businesses throughout Chittenden County and Franklin County and Grand Isle, and we pick up the phone and call CEOs and make appointments and go in and thank them for their support of the United Way and the programs that we're contributing to in the workplace, and ask them how we can help them run a successful workplace campaign for this year.
Okay. Am I correct that a lot of your donations come in from payroll deduction? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is certainly encouraged, and yes, that is the simplest way for folks to do it, and we will help them do that every step of the way.
Great. I'm talking with Donna Austin-Hawley, who's the campaign chair of the United Way of Northwest Vermont, their campaign chair this coming season, and Jesse Bridges, and he's the CEO of the United Way of Northwest Vermont. Let's talk about the United Way a little longer here, Jesse, in general. What is the mission? Do you have a mission?
We do have a mission. United Way is focused on mobilizing our community to address the community-defined most pressing needs. And so that takes on many forms, of course, but it's all about community engagement.
Okay. You have written in your campaign brochure that the United Way unites with partners to tackle community problems. Mm-hmm. You work as a team. Yep. Who are your team members?
Well, team members are really anybody, throughout the region and beyond that. I think you think of large institutions that we partner with, whether it be University of Vermont Medical Center or the state of Vermont, Howard Center and Northwestern Medical Center and Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, the designated mental health agencies, the municipalities, but we're also partnering with people, community members themselves. We all have a role to play in addressing these issues, and no one person or one organization can do the type of change that we expect from our community alone.
Okay, you have a lot of different partners, Donna, correct me. You have the nonprofit partners, you have
Yes.
the business partners, and you certainly spread your umbrella very widely, don't you?
We do. In fact, even on the campaign cabinet, part of one of our units is the not-for-profits, so that we can go into them and support them as well if they choose to run a campaign for a workplace campaign. Each of them, we learn from each other when we go on these calls, and they're very rewarding, getting to know what they're doing for their work, even from a campaign cabinet perspective.
The campaign cabinet goes out to the different agencies or groups that are asking for money and observes what they do, right?
So they do that, and then they say, how can we help you run a campaign within your organization? We actually often participate in the campaigns. We might be invited to go to their campaign cabinet lunch, their campaign lunch and their activities. We're trying to take our years of experience to help people run successful ways to reach the employees within their organizations it's an interesting thing that's happening now in workplaces. Being involved in the community is a really important part of the culture. So when I'm trying to attract employees to work at Northfield Savings Bank, of course compensation and benefits are important, but the reason people stay in organizations now is because of the culture. And a main portion of the culture is being involved in the community. To me, there's no better way than having a United Way campaign so that I can offer up to employees options, ways for them to participate, whether it's actually going into that organization or donating during the workplace campaign.
I hear that some of the groups have, some of the businesses have very great parties doing this and have a lot of fun.
I think there's several dunking booths I've heard about this year that are going to be happening, and there's some magic happening at one of the campaigns I know that is launching next week. Our particular campaign is going to be superheroes, and we've got a lot planned on that.
They have costumes? They're all set?
We'll have costumes and
yes.
awards for that. Again, the synergy of bringing people together for a common reason is just really powerful.
Yep.
But people still have choices, which is another thing. We're not saying where they should direct their dollars. They're making their own choice.
Yep. That's very important. I'm talking with Donna Austin-Hawley, who's the chair of the United Way of Northwest Vermont's campaign this year, and Jesse Bridges, who's the CEO of the Northwestern Vermont. Yes, the United Way. Yes, that's right. I stumble over some of these things sometimes. Long titles.
Yes.
Now you have an excellent, excellent video this year for the campaign. And as I watched it, I felt that I could really become, right there. I was right there, right to the minute. And I think that, and it drew me in, and I think doing a longer video on one of the biggest problems we have in Vermont right now, which is the opioid addiction. I think that was an excellent choice to do it that way. And I'd like to have both of you talk about the young man, Cam Lauf, who is featured in this video. He's a former opioid addiction. There he was, he was right in the midst of it. And now he actually is involved in helping to help other people solve this problem. And there are kind of two parts of what he's doing there. He's working with someone called the Chittenden County Opioid Alliance. I'd like to have you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on a little bit more to talk about what he's specifically doing himself. But, here he is. He's a volunteer. He's working though. He's not a volunteer, but I sensed that his heart was volunteer type, that he really wanted to be there. And so here he is, and he's sharing his experiences and sharing his ability to help people. So Jesse, do you want to start? You want to talk a little bit about Cam and what he's doing?
Yeah, so Cam's a peer recovery support coach at the Turning Point of Chittenden County, which is an agency, a funded agency, and a program, the Recovery Support Specialists, a program that we were able to help fund and increase their presence in the community through United Way and the funds that we raise. But Cam himself has gone on a journey of recovery. It's still, he's still in recovery. That's a lifelong journey. What he's able to do, though, is create that connection and community for others to help continue to battle the opiate epidemic. And what we're doing and looking at substance misuse in general, so not just with opiates, but his role in particular is focused on that because that's his experience and his life experience. And the key piece to that is what they're doing is creating community and creating connection. And the opposite of addiction is connection. having that ability for us to, in today's day and age, with everything disjointed and disconnected, and the kind of decline of social capital, if you will, it's incredibly important to create assets in the community and people and roles that help people come together and support each other. It has to take a variety of different roles for different people, and not one solution for the entire issue. But Cam illustrates really what is possible when you create that connection and when we all work together to make that change.
It's very important that that connection happened at the right time, right, Donna?
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things that Cam talks about is taking every opportunity to connect with people. It isn't always scheduled. You have to be available all the time, which it appears that he is. And I think that through his openness and his transparency with his own journey and the difficulties that he encountered, makes it real for people who are also trying to go down that same path, and to know that it is hard work every day. And it appears to me that Cam is there every day. You just are rooting for him and whoever he's working with to be successful.
The video shows him going to the emergency room at the University of Vermont's Medical Center and talking with someone who is there in the emergency room because of opioid addiction. And Cam goes on to talk about how important, when somebody is ready to talk about their problem, it's important to be there then, right?
Right. It's important to be there then, and then it's also important to have the systems and the structures created so that they can respond to those needs. And as he indicated, 5 years ago, we didn't have that type of a community response. We had a different understanding, and it was based out of need and necessity at that time of how we address different things. And the ER itself is by nature similar, as a microcosm of this for the society, but it was triage, treat, move on, right? And not that they have to, given the severity of the different things that they're encountering. And so this is where it's more than just up to the ER and the ER doctors to solve these issues. And that's what the Chittenden County Opioid Alliance is all about. United Way pulled together a number of different partners, including the Medical Center and Howard Center in the city and others, to think about not just how are we going to collaborate to say, I'm doing this and you're doing that, and let's make sure each other are aware of what we're doing, but how do we fundamentally and collectively change how we're approaching this issue, and where we're funding, and what are the rules that govern this, and what are the positions that we have, so that we can be ready. When somebody says that they're ready for treatment, we have to make sure that there's treatment available. If you can get them to the point to say they're ready, but you don't have a place for them to go, or an opportunity, or there isn't a person there at that time, as you're saying with the recovery sport coaches, you potentially lost them, and that leads to the fracturing that we've seen through the opioid epidemic that's ripped through the community at all levels of socioeconomics and place. It's ripped through these communities, our communities, and people are dying. They still are. People are dying, and so we have to do something about that. And that's really pulling these partners together is what United Way does, and we're really proud of that effort. And we continue to backbone and staff that effort to date to say it's not just about funding an individual program, but it's about looking at how the system treats the issue.
Donna, the opioid epidemic, it's very important to get the word out that it can affect anybody. Of any age, actually, and all socioeconomic levels. And I wonder if you care to comment. I have noticed recently when obituaries are in the paper that some families have chosen to mention the fact that a younger member of their family actually died of opioid addiction. I feel this is a very positive step to take to help others. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that if you're not going to talk about it, then it's going to be hidden behind a curtain. And how can we achieve success in helping people if it's behind a curtain? People need to be able to talk about it. I think, in the video you can see that Cam feels free to talk about it, that each person that's hit with this, the family and the person with the opioid addiction is unique, and we need to be there to assist them. One of the things that I think is very impressive with the Alliance going out through the United Way and making this much more public, they also are keeping track of data, which I think is also important to our community to understand that they have made a difference. So through the Alliance and keeping track of data and making supports more available, they have clearly reduced, the data shows that they've reduced deaths by 50% from 2017 to 2018.
That's amazing. Repeat that stat if you would, please.
So the Alliance has recorded that the deaths have reduced by 50% from 2017 to 2018 caused by opioids. So,
and all this would not have happened without the United Way, right, Jesse?
It's absolutely true. It's but for the United Way, and it takes all the partners pulling in the same direction. It takes the community members being willing to give of their dollars and their volunteer time. That is the but for United Way, right? It's not just our organization, but we are the ones that pull that together, and that's why we need people to contribute. That's why we need partners to show up to the table willing to think about how they're working and what they're working on. And we do the same thing. And so we all hold each other accountable in that way, and it allows us to lift up the whole.
I think that's something new, Kay, that people might not realize about the United Way or pay attention to. What a convener they are in our communities, bringing them together for these important issues that the community is saying we need to pay attention to. And so I just really applaud them. They've done a lot in the housing area as well, and the child care area. I'm just continue, as a business person, continue to be impressed how useful they make our dollars.
How many other people like Cam Lauf are out there working for the Turning Point? Do you know? You have any idea?
Turning Point has a number of different recovery support specialists because they also have people that aren't based in the emergency department. They have more community-based individuals, and so the Turning Point Center of Chittenden County, where Cam works, there are Turning Point centers actually in all our communities. We have a Turning Point Center in Franklin County that also does the peer recovery support coach work. And they've also been working with community members to train more people, not just as staff through Turning Point, but train more people in recovery support work so that we all have a better understanding. It's like all of us doing a better job of doing mental health first aid training. A lot of us know how to go into, and stop bleeding or do CPR because we've had basic first aid for our physical health. But we haven't had this training as much as a society around our mental health. And so that's something that we're working on. And so it's not just about having a number of paid staff, but it's how do we as a community respond and wrap our arms around these issues.
Talking with Donna Austin-Hawley, who is the chair of the campaign for this year's United Way of Northwest Vermont campaign, and Jesse Bridges, who's the CEO of the United Way of Northwest Vermont. Where would someone go for information, more information? You have an excellent website. It has everything on it. Do you have a telephone number in case somebody wanted to volunteer?
We do. People can call 864-7241. It's 864-7541, excuse me. And it's UnitedWayNWVT.org. UnitedWayNWVT.org is our website, and that's really where you can see the video, learn more about CAM, learn more about our work in the workplaces through Working Bridges and what we're doing to help working Vermonters on the front lines that are dealing with all these different issues. Because it's not just a matter of getting somebody a job and then they're able to go off and do everything. There's a lot of these issues that affect us regardless of what wage we're making.
I noticed that you also work with someone who's recovering to help them in their jobs so they can keep working, and I think that's very important too. Mm-hmm. I'd like to go on here a little more to something perhaps a little more personal. Have either of you been actually helped by a United Way of Northwest Vermont agency or group?
Well, I have, Kay. From a personal perspective, my father died very young of a brain tumor.
Sorry.
And I was in my early 20s and really did not know how to cope with it. didn't really have a family structure that was able to support me. They actually were all scattered to the winds at that point in time. And I actually went to the VNA and went through their grief program. And that was very supportive of me, and I've kept many of those things in my mind and in my heart, and I'm better able to help employees now that go through that type of thing in the workplace. So they were very helpful.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, there are a lot of programs out there. People think of the VNA nurse listening to the heart or something, or blood pressure, but there's so much more that they do. And thanks for sharing that. That's very important work they do. Jesse?
Well, you know, I think as a parent, my kids are, you know, in school now, a little older, but you know, I remember vividly dealing with the child care shortage that we have, and being, you know, first child. We're 3 months along, getting on wait lists all over the place.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And you know, and I remember getting a call when my daughter, after bouncing around in a number of places, was 2.5 from one of the centers, saying, "Oh, well, we have a space now." You know, you know, 3 years later. And you know, it's such an issue that again it impacts everybody. You know, the access to childcare, and it's a workforce issue. It's not a.
It's not a women's issue.
It's not a women's issue. It's
not a women's issue.
It disproportionately impacts women in the workforce, but it shouldn't. But it does. But it's an issue that affects our workforce tremendously. The availability of high quality childcare and the affordability, both to run the business and not, I think are something that I would think any parent in this region and throughout the state would recognize as a major issue.
We don't have much time. Time flies by on this program for some reason. But the cell phones, you know, we're attached to them like an umbilical cord. And actually we you know, we have all these separate groups now. We tune into our own little groups. At a time like this, is it even more important that the United Way concept continue to thrive, this sense of community and teamwork?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think it's a fundamental that I do think it's the right type of organization for what our community is asking for at this time, because we can't solve any of these issues if we just all fracture and go off individually and do our own thing, because we're not talking about solving, you know, housing just by having, you know, one program or you know, or more shelters. We need to help people and keep them housed. We need to help people stay fed, and those are the important pieces.
Donna, anything fast to add on to that?
As an individual, we can accomplish a lot, but together as a team, we accomplish more.
Well, United Way is certainly accomplishing a lot, I feel. I wish you good luck on your campaign, and keep working on behalf of the people in the community who need help and support. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining us on Conversations with Kay.